Then let's discuss different dimensions of the relation, especially between India and Russia. How it all. I give you a glimpse, but now we will discuss in detail. So we have, which I already told, which highlights the strength of any relationship. That is the annual summit. That means in India, the most powerful person is the Prime Minister of India. And in Russia, the most powerful person is the President. And they talk directly. And that too, annual summit. You have to understand the agenda of a Prime Minister of our country is very packed. From morning till evening, each time he might be having meetings, connection, discussions, etc. And to devote an annual summit, that too with a head, to invest that much time means we have a very strong relation. With Russia, we do have. And recently in 2024, Indian Prime Minister visited Russia for the annual summit. Then along with this annual summit, there are other areas also where both the countries come together and talk. Some such areas are especially BRICS. So in BRICS summit, both countries are members. We have Russia and India there. So along the lines of BRICS summit also we talk. We are again members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So there also we talk. G20 also we talk. United Nations General Summit. They are all in these areas. Both the countries are members. So what happens there also we talk. All these talks culmination into signing of different agreements. It is not like we will come together and say, okay, let's sign some agreement. It is not happening like that. Years of discussion, debates, final results into the signing of this agreement. So these are different avenues in which the rulers or the leaders meet again and finally conclude into a relationship. So along with formal also, we also have informal summit. That means gradually we are meeting. Especially in 2018, we started informal summit. See, annual summit, which is formal, is a difficult thing to happen. But having informal summit means we are having very strong relation. Then only informally also we visit each other. Even when you guys think, even with your friend and your business partners, just imagine. For example, imagine you're working in a company. Okay, you're working with your boss or your head person. So you meet every day with that person in your office. That is just a formal meeting. Just imagine a situation in which you're called by that boss for a dinner at his home. That is an informal summit. That shows you guys do not just share an employer-employee relationship, rather you share a relationship of friendship. So that's why India and Russia even have informal summit happening. Okay, so there what happened? We focus on friendship, exchange, as well as high level of talks gets discussed. And both countries focus the need to reform the United Nations Security Council. I told you about the P5, right? Countries having veto. Are you clear with veto? Absolute veto without giving any reasons. If you continuously do that, it is not something that is great, right? It's not good. So that have a negative influence all over the world. So India is saying that the United Nations Security Council must be enlarged so that India should also be given a membership there. Because this was from way back in 1945, 1947, which had a connection to that time's power structure. Now things have changed. India is a big power. So India should also be given a strong power. And Russia actually supports it. That is written over here to better reflect the current world order. We have new challenges. So we have to reform the working of United Nations securities by enlarging it as well as taking away this veto power, etc. Because if you see now, we can see Israel-Palestine issue. we can see Russia-Ukraine crisis. Can United Nations do anything here? Or is United Nations doing anything?
No, sir.
Because Russia is a permanent member of P5. So whenever an issue against Russia comes, Russia will veto it. If you see Israel-Palestine issue, USA is a strong ally of Israel. So whenever an issue of Israel comes to the P5 table, USA will veto it. So that's why India are among some countries which focus on, or which says that United Nations Security Council should be reformed. Okay, and Russia actually supports India for its permanent membership if and when United Nations Security Council is expanded. Then comes another most important area, or you can see the relationship between India and Russia actually revolves around defense. And that is both positive as well as negative. When we study, we will understand India's trade with Russia around 80 to 90% revolves around defense. So that is another issue actually. But here we will study how it acts as a positive thing. So in defense, if you see from the time of India's independence itself, India was supported by Russia in all the weaponries. So that is something we have to understand. And the relationship has wide range from, starting from guns, bullets, to even aircraft carriers, submarines, even defense system we started procuring from Russia. So recently, from a buyer-seller model, because India used to buy large number of weaponry from Russia. That's how the relationship started and is going forward. But now what happened is that this gradually changed from a buyer-seller model to something called as a joint research. That means they are co-producing many things. They work together and producing something rather than just buying from Russia. And one such thing is BrahMos missile system. Okay, in BrahMos missile system, both of India as well as Russia working together and producing missile system, and we are equally trying to sell it to other countries as well. So from buyer-seller model to co-producers as well as co-sellers or co-business persons, we are evolving. Okay, and as well as we have aircraft, tanks. This all India and Russia are now co-producing. Okay, then as well as we have agreement on equipment as well as spare parts, because that is an issue. We will study that. Like when we study about India-Russia relationship, the spare part becomes a very huge issue. We will study that when we move forward. And another flagship scheme or a flagship thing which was in news was something called as S-400 air defense system. So that is something you must study in detail. You can Google and study more about it. Defense system is nothing but it is a combination of missile system which will be placed in a country. So whenever we will be having a perimeter or area, if some unwanted objects get into it, maybe aircraft or other missiles or jets, drones, etc., this defense system will be alerted and they will go and hit them and destroy in space itself. So it works as defense. That means if somebody attacks us, we will neutralize them in the space itself. Okay. So that the advantages of S-400 missile system, we can use it in every area. We can carry it in a truck and place it to different areas. So we are taking S-400 missile system from them, frigates, shareholders, as well as joint venture to manufacture helicopters in India. Okay, so that is something we have to understand. And in 2019, we also started another joint venture to produce rifles, because AK-47 was the premier gun which was used all around the globe, which was produced by Russia. So or the more advanced, there is AK series, that means the AK-47, which we are saying, the advanced series of assault rifles, etc., were started to be developed from India in Indian factories. So that is something we have to understand. That means from a buyer-seller model to we have developed to something called as co-producers as well as co-sellers. Then as well as regarding military training, we also have meetings, especially tri-services called as Indra. See, these exercises are a very powerful thing to develop relationship, because in these exercises what happens, officers from India will come, officers from Russia will come, they will stay together for some time, they share their expertise in different area. For example, assume, for example, we are having an exercise related to forest operation. That means, for example, there are some terrorists which are inside forest, how to attack them. So India might be having some ways and tricks to reach out to them. Similarly, Russia will also be having. So they will share among themselves the best practices for effectiveness. The same can happen with sea, other homes, etc. It can be different areas. But the main area is that both will share their ideas and skills on how to do it. Okay, that is something. As well as there are other, the most important one is Indra. We have another one called as Sapath, etc. See, Sapath has actually focused in anti-terror. So each time they will select a topic and will work to solve that area. So that is another area which you have to understand. So if you see, this shows it's 2021 because these reports come very late, okay, because the military documents etc are very much classified, so that will come into the market very less. But still you can see a high. It has reduced now, but still around 65, or just assume 50% of arms import is from Russia. So just understand how much strong our relation with Russia is as far as defense is considered. Okay. Now comes trade and economic relations. Actually, there is a connection of trade and defense, because much of our trade is actually with defense itself. So that is something we have to understand, and this is flawed as well. So by 2022, we had a trade of around 45 billion. In that, 35 billion is in Russia's favor. That means we have to give money to Russia. So that is not something which is great of India. And if you see India's export, it is mainly pharmaceuticals, chemicals, machinery, appliances. That means mainly raw material related things are which we export to Russia. But if you see Russia, they send us oil and petroleum products, especially in the recent times, precious stones, metals, vegetables, as well as defense procurements. And that is something we have to understand. Then now to boost our trade, we are focusing on something called as Green Corridor Project, North-South Transport Corridor, as well as free trade. So this Green Corridor Project is something which our, customs is focusing upon. You can Google it and study more about it. The same with International North-South Transport Corridor. These two are your homeworks to read more, because especially this International North-South Transport Corridor, in the coming years, you can even expect as a separate question itself. Okay, so it is advancing a thing because it is a way in which India is planning to connect from India to Russia. Okay, as well as we focus on signing a free trade agreement with the Eurasian Economic Council. That includes Russia as well as some other members near to Russia. So to sign a free trade means India can sell its produce to these countries without huge cost, okay, without trade. Then space. Is a very important thing. See, initial stages of India, all our satellite launches were based on this space. Okay, because not space, we're connected with Russia. In Russia's launches, launch vehicle, etc. We used to send our initial satellites. Okay, and India even uses GLONASS system as well, and especially for our Gaganyaan, which is India's famous project to send Indians to space, and that even include a women member. So keep that in mind. It can help you in competitive exams. And those astronauts are also trained by Russia. Then comes another very important area, that's cultural relations. This I came to know more about during my 2023 mains preparation as well as interview preparation. So in that you have to understand, along with that, culturally India and Russia are becoming strong. You have to understand, in Russia, in around 20 institutions, in university, schools, etc., they are teaching Hindi. See, in Russia, the thing is that especially the Russians study their language. Even their machineries, etc., are very complex. It is said that during the World War, one of its, like jets were under the control of USA and or the European powers. Till now, they have not deciphered the technology, how are these technologies being used. That means sophisticated their technologies are, even with their language as well as. Like when you go in Russia, most of the discussions actually happens in Russian language. In such a country where they value their religion's language, though very importantly, to teach Hindi is a very strong thing. Apart from Hindi, you can see Tamil, Marathi, Gujarati, Bengali, Sanskrit, Pali are also taught in these Russian institutions. That means if they are teaching it, there are obviously takers to these subjects. And India's dance, music, yoga, and Ayurveda are also areas where Russians enjoy. If not for this, these things won't be in that country. So that shows culturally also the relationship between India and Russia is strong. Then comes nuclear cooperation, which is very important. Kudangulam nuclear power plant is being built in India with Russian cooperation. And based on that, we are esteemed to get, clean energy. So that is, and in nuclear cooperation, there is an institution called as Nuclear Suppliers Group, which is very important. Only members who are members to this institution get latest nuclear materials as well as leading technologies to it. India is not a member to it. So Russia actually supports the cause of India being granted a membership to these areas.